Continuing our reading in the World and Thorinn by Damon Knight, Chapter 13, Section 1. How Thorinn died and was brought to life again, but resented it. It was therefore decided to put the monitor on command mode, with instructions to take whatever action may be necessary to promote the welfare of any remnant of humanity that may survive. No sonar reports from the upper regions have come through about since the fighting began. Nearly the whole of Lozed is flamed out and uninhabitable. If any of us live through the next few days, we will return and again put the monitor on slave mode. If not, the destiny of mankind is in its, I almost said hands. May God have mercy on us. In the first instant, the battering force of the water had collapsed the bladder around him. Suspended helplessly in the dark torrent, he had fought until he could hold his breath no longer. Then, as the water filled his lungs, the crumpled bladder had turned somehow into the coils of a serpent that wound round his chest, constricting it with a pain beyond pain. The serpent was still there, although he could not see it when he opened his eyes. He struggled uselessly. He was falling, but the curved wall of the room hung around him steadily. Some crystal thing was withdrawing over his head. Metal Tube's arms were moving away. The yellowish light came from panels in the wall. A white engine drifted into view above. He could hear its faint hissing in the silence. White spidery arms came out of it, turned, dipped, closed around him gently at arms and thigh. He was too weak to resist. The arms retracted, turned as the room wheeled around him, placed him with his back against the long shaft of the engine that ended in a curved tube over his head. Soft coils snaked around him. The hiss came again, and he was moving upward through a round hole in the ceiling. He came out into a room that was like a quarter of a cheese, with one wall curved like the one below, the other two straight. Ceiling and floor were flat. The coils withdrew. The arms gripped him again, turned him, gently pressed him against a flattened pole that stood in the corner. Other coils moved around him. The engine backed away with a hiss, descending through the hole in the floor, and was gone. He was still falling while the room fell around him. In a net bulging from the wall beside him, he saw his possessions, the bundles, the talking box, his shoes and clothing. He looked down at himself, saw that he was naked. "Box," he said. His voice was thin and hoarse. "Here am I." "What is this place? What has happened?" "This is a place at the bottom of the world. You went into the falling water and died. Engines brought you here." "I'm alive," Thorinn muttered. "I didn't die." "Engines made you alive again." The box said something more, but already Thorinn's eyes had closed and he was drifting away into another dream of serpents. When he awoke the second time, he was still in pain, but he was stronger. The unfamiliar room was just the same. "Box, I'm thirsty," he said. "There is water in the engine on the wall." Thorinn looked and he saw two segmented yellow ropes that hung outward like snakes from the white wall. "One is for food, the other for water. The one on the right is for water." Thorinn reached, pulled the tube toward him, doubtfully put the gray end of it between his lips. Cool, sweet water spurted into his mouth. He choked with surprise, then swallowed. When he let go, the tube went back part way into the wall and was still. A few droplets of water, perfect little balls, drifted in the air. There were glowing panels in the curved wall facing him, like the ones in the room below, and under them were 6 crystals like the one in the box, but much larger. 2 were twice the size of the others. Each of these had a smaller one on either side. In the middle of the room were 2 yellow poles, about 1.5 inches apart, with large blue beads on them at intervals. To his left, there was an upright box taller than a man, and besides it, in the corner, a half partition. Otherwise, the room was empty. The air was pleasantly warm, but had an odd scent. He examined the coils that were holding him, found that they were two flat white bands of some unfamiliar material, one under his armpits and the other across his thighs. He tried to pull them loose without success until he discovered that they were clasped together on one side. He tugged at the ends and they came free. He was drifting away from the pole. The room was massively and slowly turning. He managed to seize the pole as it came around and drew himself to it, but his legs floated upward. "Box," he said, "where are we going?" "We are not going anywhere." Thornton clung to the pole with his arms and legs. The room steadied a little. I mean," he said with strained patience, "how long must we go on falling?" "We are not falling. This place is at the bottom of the world." The crystal lighted and he saw a dark circle with a dot of light at the center. Yellow lines appeared, radiating from the center. "Here, the weight of the world pulls us toward it from all directions at the same time, and so we cannot fall." Thornton's head was beginning to ache. His face felt sweaty and cold. "Box, I'm going to be sick." "It will be best for you to go into the big box in the corner and put your feet on the floor." That was easier said than done, but Thornton pushed himself away from the pole he was clinging to and succeeded in grasping one of the soft blue beads on the next pole. From there he could reach the tall box, which had two yellow handles. Clinging to one, he tugged at the other. The door opened. Inside were handles. "The door must be shut," said the box outside. Thornton closed it, got himself upright, and pressed his feet against the perforated floor. At once jets of water spurted from the walls, wetting him down all over below the chin. With a strong suction held his feet down. Thornton's stomach knotted. He bent forward and vomited into the stream. That's the end of section 1.